Can I tell you something that hit me like a ton of bricks? One day I realized I wasn't just living my life, I was rehearsing it. Think about that. Every single day, you're practicing something. You're practicing patience or impatience, gratitude or complaining, generosity or selfishness, peace or anxiety, courage or avoidance. You may not even notice it, but every repeated thought, every repeated choice, every repeated habit is shaping the person that you'll become. Here's what nobody tells you. You don't rise to your intentions. You drift toward your practices. That's why someone can desperately want a better marriage while practicing criticism, or want a deeper faith while practicing distraction, want peace while practicing worry, want confidence while practicing self-doubt. We all become incredibly good at whatever we repeatedly do, which means this isn't just about habits, it's about identity. Because the life you're living is the life you're practicing. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Welcome to Pilot Light. I am your host, Josh. You know, most people aren't looking for another self-help podcast. They are looking for a reminder of who they are, a reminder of what matters, a reminder that their story is not over. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're driving to work or you're trying to remember if you actually locked the front door after already checking it twice, or you're standing in the kitchen eating shredded cheese straight out of the bag because, well, apparently that's considered dinner now. I'm really glad you're here. Let's light the pilot light. A while back, I caught myself doing something I'd been doing for years. I was worrying. Not because something terrible had happened, but because something terrible might happen. Maybe, eventually, possibly. Isn't that amazing? We can spend emotional energy preparing for events that never even arrive. And as I thought about it, I realized something. I had become incredibly good at worrying. It's something I still battle with today. Not because I wanted to, but because I practiced it over and over and over again. Every what if, every worst case scenario, every imaginary conversation, every attempt to control the uncontrollable. I wasn't born good at worrying. I trained myself. That realization was both discouraging, but also incredibly helpful, because if I could accidentally train myself to worry, maybe I could intentionally train myself to trust. Just truthful story here. What is a benefit in this day and age is with our kids and their cell phones. And the fact that you are able to literally track and see where they are at. Now that works sometimes and other times it doesn't. And it's fascinating to me because I grew up in an era where I literally had to let my parents know where I was at by calling and saying a really quick message on collect. If you've been there, raise your hand. That also tells me your age. But in today's day and age with cell phones, you're able to really track where your kids are at. And I remember there was a time, and I've run into this both with my son and my daughter, where all of a sudden you couldn't see where they were at on the map, or maybe their phone died. Or maybe they didn't connect with you as quick as they thought because, hey, they have a teenage mind and they're having a good time with their friends. But I remember two different instances with both my daughter and my son where that happened, where they were basically off the map. I couldn't get a hold of them. And immediately my mind went to a million different places of what if. What if they ran off the road? What if someone abducted them? What if something happened to them and they're laying there, or something catastrophic happen that's even worse. And my brain would go there. And it was always this amount of just stress that would be there. And I'd be laying there at night. And if you're a parent, you know that feeling of they're not home yet. And I still struggle with that to this day. But there was one day that I realized something. That most of us aren't becoming the people we dream about. We're becoming the people that we practice. And you know what? That's a different way of looking at life, because suddenly the small things become big things. The ordinary moments become sacred. The daily choices become votes. Every decision casts a vote for the person you're becoming. So if I want to be a worrier, I will cast a vote by worrying continually. It's not one decision, it's 1,000 of them, quietly, consistently, day after day. So here's the big idea. Here's what I've learned. Your future isn't being built by your biggest moments. It's being built by your smallest, repeated ones. Think about an athlete. Championships aren't won on game day. They are won in thousands of ordinary practices. Think about a musician. The concert isn't where the greatness is built. It is built in the repetition nobody applauds. Life works the exact same way. We become what we repeatedly practice, which means if we don't like where we're headed, so pause for a moment, think about it. If you don't like where you're headed right now, listen up. If we don't like where we're headed, we don't necessarily need bigger dreams. We may need different practices. So here's my first point. Every repetition is casting a vote. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, said something that I absolutely love. It's a great book. I recommend it highly. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. This is about identity here, and we've been talking about this for several podcasts, but think about that. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Every time you tell the truth, you are voting for integrity. Every time you show kindness, you're voting for compassion. Every time you choose courage, you're voting for bravery. Every time you practice gratitude, guess what? You're voting for joy. And the opposite is true too. Every time you have a repeated complaint, every repeated excuse, every repeated fear, every repeated lie, those are votes too. The question isn't whether you're voting. The question is, who are you voting to become? Here's my second point in this today. Small things create big lives. Let me say that one more time. Small things create big lives. We live in a culture obsessed with breakthroughs. The big promotion, the dramatic transformation, the overnight success, but almost nothing meaningful happens overnight. Healthy marriages are built in ordinary conversations. Strong faith is built in ordinary obedience. Great leaders are built in ordinary decisions. Legacy is built in ordinary days. The problem is ordinary doesn't feel important until years later. Then you realize those ordinary moments built everything. Here's my third point. Discipleship is daily practice. One thing I've noticed about Jesus, he rarely invited people into spectacular moments. He invited them into daily faithfulness. Follow me, walk with me, remain in me. Notice the language. It's repetitive. It's consistent. It's daily. That's because transformation doesn't happen through inspiration alone. It happens through formation. And formation always involves practice. Maybe that's why Jesus spent 3 years walking with his disciples instead of giving them a weekend seminar. Can I ask you something? What are you practicing right now? Not what you're hoping for, not what you're praying for. What are you practicing? If someone quietly watched your life for the next 30 days, what would they conclude you're becoming? Would they see peace? Would they see patience, faith, generosity? Or would they see hurry and anxiety or fear or distraction? Because your practices are always telling the truth, even when your intentions are not. So here's your challenge this week. Choose one practice, not one goal, one practice. Maybe it's 5 minutes of prayer. Maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe it's reading scripture before you get on your phone, or speaking encouragement before criticism, or maybe it's taking a walk or calling someone you love, or whatever it may be. But keep it simple, because simple things done consistently change lives. Do not underestimate what one faithful practice can become over time. So in closing here, years from now, your life will largely reflect what you repeatedly practiced. Not perfectly, not predictably. That's not meant to discourage you. It's meant to encourage you, because if repetition shaped who you are today, repetition can also shape who you're becoming tomorrow. You don't have to overhaul your entire life this afternoon, okay? I'm not asking you to do that. Here's what I want you to do. You simply have to choose the next right practice. Then repeat it again and again and again. Because one day you will wake up and you will realize that the person you hope to become has quietly become the person you've been practicing all along. I want to add this section here, and I call this the Legacy Minute. And, I've been thinking about this week. Nobody becomes an example overnight. People become examples one ordinary day at a time. One decision, one habit, one conversation, one act of integrity. Long before anyone calls you a leader, you are practicing leadership. Long before anyone says you have character, you're practicing character. So don't despise ordinary days. They're writing the story someone else will someday remember. Pass the flame. Hey, thanks for spending a few moments with me today. If this conversation encouraged you or reminded you of someone who's trying to become a little more intentional, pass the flame. One small conversation can start a lifetime of transformation. And remember, see farther, live deeper, become who you were created to be. You were created to be a fire, not just a flicker. So keep the pilot light on, and I'll see you next time. Before we go, I want to ask you for 2 quick things. First, if Pilot Light has encouraged you, would you take a moment to follow the podcast and leave a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify? It may seem like a small thing, but it really does help this message reach more people who might need a little light in their life. And secondly, I want to hear from you, because Pilot Light was never meant to be just a podcast. It was meant to be a conversation. So go to the website, mypilotlight.com, and go to the fan page portion and send me a message or leave me a voicemail. Tell me your story. What challenged you? What encouraged you? What did you do differently? Or maybe most importantly, who did you pass the flame to? Maybe you shared an episode with a friend. Maybe you encouraged someone who needed it. Maybe you had a conversation you had been putting off. Maybe you chose to show up differently. I want to hear those stories. Some of them may be even shared on our website or included in future episode, because you never know how your story might light the way for someone else. So remember, a flame was never meant to be kept. It was meant to be passed. So keep passing the flame. And as always, see farther, live deeper, become who you were created to be. You were created to be a fire, not just a flicker. Keep the pilot light on, and I will see you next time.